Hi, it's great to be back with you again. We've been talking about notes, scales, clefs, and I wanted to tell you about something that most musicians learn the way an artist would learn what the name of the colors are. It's going to be hard for you to be a painter if you don't know the difference between the primary colors. And it's exactly the same issue with music and understanding music. If you want to be a little more knowledgeable about what music is and how you can take part in it, you need to know about something called intervals. Any two notes, whether they sound together or in succession, create what we call an interval. And it's something that you learn how to identify the sound. I've talked to you about the octave before, and I've talked to you about the diatonic scale, which is the basis of Western music. Diving a little deeper into that, let's take a look and listen to the sound of the basic intervals. Okay? We heard the octave. Let's start with a series of intervals that you can see now both in musical typing, which is available in GarageBand on your iPad. It's also available in a keyboard window that you can look at. And especially for those of you who want to write it down, you can look at what it looks like in notation. So let's start looking at the intervals, starting with when the same note happens at the same note. That's called unison. It's hard to tell the two different sounds unless two different instruments are playing or more, and then you'd hear timbre, the creation of a sound. Unison, same note. Let's move up. The next interval is a half step above, and that's called a minor second. It's a little dissonant. A whole step, in the case of reading it in music notation, is from C to D. That's a whole step. C to D is what we call a major second. Naturally, lowering that, then we call a minor second. If you raise that D up another half step, you'd get what we call a minor third, but we don't like to look at it that way. Let's look at a third, a major third, very important interval. We hear it all the time. Major third, from the 1 to the 3. If you lower a half step, that's when you get a minor third. Again, a very important interval, the minor third. Go up another half step from the major third, and you get 1 to 4. Oh, that is the perfect fourth. We'll learn why that's important. We're not even going to talk about what's between the 4 and the 5 because it's forbidden, as I've told you. The tritone, the flatted fifth, the diminished fifth. Ugh. It was forbidden for a long time. Now, our ears are used to it. In the late 20th century, more and more composers started using that interval. But boy, back in our past, that interval was to be avoided because it was so dissonant and harsh. All right, the perfect fifth, 1 to 5. That interval relationship, that sound, 1 to 5, is a cornerstone of Western music. It is so important. And we're going to continue to learn why. The ratio is 3 to 2. And by that I mean in the frequencies. In the octave, the ratio is 2 to 1. They're perfect. They blend in so well, they disappear. A 3 to 2 is very similar. think of the vibrations, a frequency. And if a 3 were happening instead of 2 to 1, 3 to 2, they blend nicely too. And there's a really great understanding of that when we examine something called the overtone series. But that is another lesson on another day. Let's just remember that the 1 to the 5 is so important. Let's go up a whole step from 1 to the 6. In our case, looking at it on this scale of C, it's C to A. That's a major 6. And I think you're understanding that if we lowered that a half step, we would get something called a minor 6.